911 emergency, what's emergency?
Emergency. This man he my wife. I shot him.
Winger family, Mark Winger and Dona Winger. These are two happy people that loved each other so very much. People used to be envious of their love because they look like people that really loved each other so much, and there was nothing that could separate them. The whole community, loved how much these people loved each other. It was beautiful. Their love was just magical and beautiful. So Mark Winger and Dona Winger were trying to have children, but unfortunately Dona had whatever problem, she couldn't bear a child, so they got married in 1989. After a couple of years, after about 6 years, 1995, they decided to adopt a child. In June 1995 they decided to adopt a child, so they adopted a baby girl, and they were living together very happily. They loved this baby and everything was moving nice. So Dona decided to visit her mother in Florida, her mother together with her stepfather in Florida. She traveled together with the baby to Florida to meet the mother and the stepfather. And after the visit, they were coming back home and they got to the airport and needed a ride home. So they rented a van that brought them all the way home. Now, on their way home, the driver, who happens to be Roger, the driver's name is Roger Harrington, he has this history of some little medical issues or mental psychiatric issues. So he passed some comments that weren't really decent. It was quite disturbing for Dona, but she just kept her cool until this man just brought them home safely. They arrived home safely and everything was fine. Dona told her husband about how their experience was with the driver that brought them home. He was overspeeding, he was doing some crazy things on the road, and he passed some murder comments, how he would love to murder someone, do this and that to somebody. So he talked about some things that weren't really nice, and Dona told the husband about it. So the husband, who happens to be Mark Winger, contacted the company that Roger works for. Contacted the company, and the company talked to him. He insisted he would love to have Roger's contact because he has to talk to Roger. Roger accepted, and the company gave his contact to Mark. Mark called Roger. Nobody knows what they talked about, but eventually Roger came home to Mark's address, Mark and Dona's address, and nobody really knows what actually happened there. But as you saw in the beginning of this video, there was a phone call to the police. So Mark called 911 to complain about a man that had attacked his wife right in their home, and he shot the man dead. We don't really know if the man actually did something that warranted Roger to shoot him dead or something. So this is where the story really gets beautiful. The police came over to their place. Ambulance also came over to their place. They came to do their usual checks, what really happened, take photos here and there, do their usual thing. When there is a murder case, what the authorities do. They came there, did their thing, and they left, and they saw everything to be a case of self-defense, because his wife was attacked. Mark's wife was attacked by Roger, and Roger had to shoot him down. So he gave him a shot in his head. But by the time the police came, the wife of Mark was also on the floor. I don't know if I missed that while telling you the story. The wife of Roger was on the floor. She was bleeding. She wasn't dead yet. Roger was equally not dead yet. Both of them were still, having life in them. So after the police did whatever they had to do, the pictures were taken here and there. They rushed them to the hospital, but unfortunately, Mark's wife died shortly after arriving at the hospital. We're talking about Dona here. The baby was still upstairs though. Don't forget, I forgot to mention that the baby was upstairs. Mark's wife died shortly, and a few minutes later, Roger also died. Yeah, Roger also passed away. So investigations started. The police wanted to know what really happened. Mark told his side of the story, said that this man just came to their place. They don't know what happened. The man just attacked the wife. He heard the noise from the back. So he came down. He sensed that something was wrong. So he got his gun, rushed quickly to the living room, saw what was happening. His wife had been attacked and she was dying. So the man, out of self-defense, Mark also out of self-defense, shot this man dead. The police, for whatever reason, believed his story because, of course, they were in their house. The man came there, so he must have been the intruder. Plus, he has a history of psychiatric issues, so it was easy to believe that Roger could have done that to Mark's wife. So one of the police or one of the investigators didn't actually fall for the story. There was something missing here and there. So he was trying to press on, pushing more investigation into the whole thing. Now, Roger's family also didn't believe Roger could have done that. They knew he had issues, yes, but it was not that bad for him to actually go that far. So Roger's family did not accept what the police had told them. The whole community actually was praising Mark, that he had done a good job because they knew how much he loved his wife and they were proud of him. So, he was more like a hero in the eyes of the community. But the family of Roger were not happy and they wanted more. They wanted more investigation to go on with this so they would know what the truth actually is. The investigator was still pushing and pushing, but his bosses didn't allow him and said, no, we have to close this case. Because some other investigators have also come to check out the story and they said we should just close this case. So we just have to close the case. Come on, man. All right. So one thing I didn't mention is Dona had a friend, a best friend, whose name was D.N. Shows. The name was D.N. Shows. D.N. Shows, we'll talk about her later in the course of this video. But for now, we'll just continue with the case. They closed investigation. Everybody went to their various homes. Everything was fine. There was nothing more to talk about. This case was absolutely closed. Mark was the hero. But after about 5 months, Mark wanted to marry the nanny of their baby, the adopted child, because the wife could not have a child of her own, so they had to adopt. This adopted child had a nanny and Mark wanted to marry this nanny. Alright, so this was a bit funny in the eyes of the investigator who wanted to, continue with the investigation and push on, although the investigation was closed. So from time to time, Mark will come. He actually went to the police station 2 times. First time to actually ask about his gun because, after shooting Roger, the police took his gun. So he went there to ask about his gun. And the police found that quite funny for him to come there asking about his gun. Not only did he ask about the gun, but he also asked how the case is going. Why would you ask about how a case is going? A case that has been closed. Why would you ask how it's going? You said yourself the man came to your place and attacked your wife and you had to shoot him down. So what more do you want to hear from the police? You have all the story. You actually have more story than the police because you fed them with the story. Why do you come again to them asking them? So this was funny in the eyes of the police. But still, the superiors or the bosses did not want this investigator to, continue with that investigation. They wanted the case to stay closed. So Mark went home. They gave him his gun. And like I told you, he was at the police station twice to, ask about how the case was going. A closed case. That was quite suspicious. So yeah, everyone forgot about everything. People were not happy. Roger's family were not happy, but things just had to stay the way they were. Alright, so after about 3 years, the best friend of Dona, whose name is D.N. Schultz, she was hospitalized for psychiatric reasons because she had tried like 4 times to commit suicide. So, she came out. After she was set free, she came out and thought, no, I have to talk to the police because something isn't right somewhere. It's likely Mark is responsible for the death of my friend and I can't forgive myself if the truth doesn't come out, so I need to go talk to the police. Meanwhile, Mark has already had like 3 children with this new wife. new wife, the nanny of the first baby that he married. He has 3 children with his new wife. They were enjoying their lives. D.N. Schultz went to confess to the police that before Dona died, she was having an affair with Mac, and that was a big red flag. It was a crazy big red flag. That Mac could have actually killed his wife, Mac could have actually killed his wife because he wanted to be with D.N. Schultz. So the police had more reason to start investigating this. And the bosses had to this time accept that the investigation about Mark and the death of Dona could go on again. So D.N. Schultz told the police about this affair they were having, and also mentioned to the police that Mark has made certain funny comments in the past, that he wished there was a way he could get rid of Dona. He wished he could kill her. He's made comments like that before. So this was another big red flag, for him to say something like that about his wife, when everybody, the whole community, including Dona's own parents, were even defending Mark because they knew that this man really loved their child. And Dona had never really said bad things about Mark, so they assumed everything was going fine and everybody loved Mark. So it was hard for anybody to even believe that Mark would have a hand in this. So there was an important thing that I did not mention. At the time the police went to Mark and Dona's house after the 911 call from Mark did not know that Roger had written something in his car. There was a note in his car that said, at so and so time, I have to be at Mark Wenger's address. And, I'm meeting with Mark Wenger. This note was in his car when he was killed, and his car was parked right in front of the house of Mark. Now, according to Mark, there was a hammer in their house, and it was with this hammer that Roger killed his wife, because Roger actually struck his wife with the hammer. Roger claimed he was in the back. They don't know when the man came in, and he just struck his wife with this hammer. Now, the hammer belongs to Roger. And this is one intelligent thing that the investigator was not too happy about. And he thought, no, there was something fishy here, because in the boot of Roger was, a tool which can be used as a weapon. And it was even worse than the hammer. Roger did not use this tool to attack the woman. Why would Roger use a hammer that he didn't even know existed in the house of Mark to attack Mark's wife? See? So right there, something was off. Right there, something was just off. So when you combine these two facts, the note that was in the car, and Roger even denied, the police and the investigators asked Roger about if he had any appointment or he arranged an appointment with Roger. Mark denied it and said there was no appointment. Little did he know the police had already found a note in the car. But of course, the bosses never allowed the investigator to, pursue with the investigation of this case. So he couldn't do anything with that evidence he had. Alright, so based on what D.N. Schultz had brought to the police, the information she had brought to them, plus these two things that were found in the car of Roger, the police decided it was enough reason to open another investigation on this matter. But of course, D.N. Schultz has some psychiatric history, also has attempted suicide 4 times but failed. So the court was not too happy to accept, the information she was bringing to them. They felt like it was not coming from a reliable source, because D.N. Schultz has too many issues psychologically. So this is not someone who can provide good information that the court can work with. But the police still went on to pursue further investigation. It went on, and finally they realized that Mark was actually the one responsible for the death. After over 6 years, he is responsible for the death of his wife. Mark was in prison for life. This court section actually took over 10 hours, probably like 13 hours or something. And in the end, they jailed Mark for life. Now, while Mark was in prison, a few years after, he was discussing with an inmate how he was planning for some people to kidnap D.N. Schultz and force her to make statements, in fact, in the form of a letter, and enclose the letter with her saliva, so her DNA will be on the letter and they will know it's actually coming from her, to state that everything she said was not true, every allegation she made against Mark was false, blah blah blah, so that the Mark can be set free. And after that, those who kidnap her would actually finish her off, they kill her, so she wouldn't even be there to say that she wasn't responsible for writing that letter. Alright, so one inmate heard this from Mark and reported to the authorities that, hey, this is what Mark is planning to do. Mark was taken to court again. This time it lasted about 3 hours in court, and in the end they gave him another 35 years. So he has life imprisonment and he has extra 35 years. So it means even if he dies in prison and wakes up again, he will still have to do 35 years. This is the story of Mark Wenger. The family of Roger is now at peace because the truth is out. Their son was not responsible for the murder of Dona Wenger. The husband of Dona Wenger himself was responsible for the death of his wife. So this is the story of Mark Wenger, and this is a kind of story that you get to learn a lot from. And one lesson you learn from this story is that whatever case is presented to you, never believe it. First, tell yourself the case is a lie before you even start judging. Tell yourself it is a lie. Make your own research and investigation about the case and get the truth. Never accept what comes to you, no matter how truthful it seems. Never ever accept it. Tell yourself it's a lie. Investigate and get the real truth. So this is a man that was really in love with his wife. Everybody believed in that. They loved him for who he was, but see how everything turned out. You never know the hearts of people. You never even know their minds, regardless how much you think you know people. Alright, so we end it here. Try to subscribe to my channel. We're bringing you more stories, not just this one. There's a lot more stories to come in the future. Probably tomorrow there'll be a new story already, so try to subscribe to this channel so you can hear more stories. Thank you.